Hello, everybody, and welcome to Office Hours. We assemble every day to answer your media and tech-related production questions. Cindy Drozda from Erie, Colorado is our reader today. Cindy, what have we got?
Our first question today is from Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona, USA. A client has asked us to cover their participation in a parade. What are some clever ways to get coverage? I doubt we'll get permits for drones, so only ground-based recommendations, please.
Oh, I love a good parade. Courtney Gooden's going to start us off this morning. Courtney?
Well, it might be good to incorporate a couple of people to cover it for you, to enlist the help of someone else. It depends on what they're doing in that parade. Are they marching in a band? Are they on a float? Or, where are they? One thing that I've been using for coverage for things like this is the Osmo Pocket. This is the Pocket 3 because it's a gimbal-based recorder, and you can get an adapter that has a quarter 20 on the back of it, and then you can put it on a 5 or 6 foot selfie stick. And so you can get it up into the air, and you can set it to a region of interest so it will automatically keep that area focused and level. And then you just stick it on the stick, and you stick the stick up in the air, and then you can bring it down in the middle of the street when nobody's there to get a look down the street, and then you bring it up, and it'll give you a drone-like shot on the end of a 6 foot street for reasonably cheap, and it won't interfere with the operation of the parade. And a lot of times you can't fly a drone over public events like that where there are people underneath the drone. So it'll give you that drone-like look without the necessity of flying anything.
Jeffrey Powers.
The one thing I like about the DJI Pocket is the fact that you can also set it up for time lapses. So you can just set it up, let it go, and then when you're done, you've got the whole parade in time lapse. Getting high up shots are actually not that difficult if the city will allow you to do this. You just find a tree or you find a pole, and then you get one of these. These are basically tree mounts. So you get a little strap, you strap it around the pole, you strap it around the tree. Depending on the camera, if it's a small, like a GoPro or something like that, it can fit right there. If you've got a heavier camera, I would highly suggest flipping it around and letting it point down so that this is taking the brunt of the weight. But you can then put them higher up above heads and make it go from there. Of course, if this person is riding on a float or in a car, you can always take some GoPros and put them in the car, around the car, so that's always following the person in the question for the parade. But it also depends on what type of shot you have, because normally a parade usually has most parades have a spot where you want to go. That's where they get, if they get judged for their floats or whatever, that's where it's best set up. So a lot of people are trying to get that type of shot. So being able to hang around there, that's stuff like this will help you get those shots and not have to be in front of those cameras.
Alex Lindsay.
I have to say Jeffrey's shirt is so 3D. Or when it doesn't wrinkle, that it just looks like there's a cup stuck to the front of your shirt. It's a crazy thing through Zoom. Anyway, it does it so it's got a weird 3D thing that's going on there. Anyway, so a couple things that we've done. One is if your drone is small, if it's below 100 or 250 grams, you can get away with a lot. You don't have to have any. It's a lot of the ones that are encased. I don't think that it's out of the question that you can use one of those. Another thing to look at is when you're looking for. I'm just going to go to drones just for a second. I know you said to not talk about drones, but we're going to talk about them for just a second because I'm dealing with it right now. So there's a couple things. One is that if the 250 gram ones, the 249 gram drones have. I don't know if you need to get approval for that. To use those, and the cameras on the new ones are pretty good. So, and I don't know whether you're talking about doing this live or whether you're talking about doing a record. I'm just going to assume a record because live is really hard to do on parades. But the other thing to think about is if you have a parade going down here, one of the things that we do with drones a lot is you've got all these people in here, but sometimes there's portions of it where there's nobody over here. And what we do is we get a clearance to go here with our drone, use a longer lens, and shoot into it. And so it feels like you're over top of it, but you're actually not over top of anybody. And it depends on what the approvals that will go through really quickly are drone requests that are under 200 feet. So if you just say, my hard ceiling is 200 feet, usually you get approved pretty quickly if it's not over focus and you have the approval of whoever you're working with, and sometimes you might find a business that will let you go over their building, kind of thing. So just something to think about. Rooftops are really great for grabbing onto things that from above. So look at those. Another thing that we've done a lot of is taking a monopod and taking a camera and putting the camera on the top of the monopod, pretty long monopod, and making sure we have a monitor so that we can see what the camera can see, and then just kind of capturing stuff of them going by. And we move that in different heights. It makes it feel like there's more cameras if you use it and then move down and do it again, and so on and so forth. And sometimes we'll bring it all the way down so it's shooting through people or just a little over people's heads so that you get some heads across the bottom. And it kind of makes it feel like you're kind of in the crowd and covering it. And so you don't have to rotate it very much. You can do it that way. And then the thing that we have started to play with, because I got one and now I'm kind of addicted, is the Insta360 X. I have an X3, but we're looking at for an event I'm working on a couple X5s, where you can in post get your 16:9s back out of it. So you're shooting 360. You might want to put one of those in a couple places on the float, in other places to be able to kind of do your pans and everything else later.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey Powers wants to get back in on this. Jeffrey?
Yeah, just really quick on the monopod, because I was going to suggest what I usually do when I set up cameras really high is I use speaker stands, and then I get an extension with the speaker stand, and then I have a mount on top which would hold the cameras, mostly the PTZ cameras. The problem is when you're getting a crowd like that with a monopod or anything like that, people are just going to push and shove, and so you've got to really have somebody that's watching that like a hawk to make sure that that camera doesn't go moving off to the left or the right because somebody just wants to push their way in to get a better view of the parade.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest one more thing, which is that a couple of times I've used those really small, inexpensive, like newer style mini jibs. If it's got like a 4 to 6 foot arm on it, jib shots are kind of a tradition in all the parades you've ever seen from the big guys. And these are not anywhere near as good as those serious jibs. But for a small event like this, there's nothing like that ability to get up higher to watch a band go by and then drift down into the crowd and things like that. So that's just another option. You can get them for like under $200 now. They're not great and they won't last you the rest of your career, but for a one-time shoot, they can be really effective. Alex, you wanted to get back in?
Yeah, and the reason we use monopods is so we can keep moving around because we don't want to be in the same place. So we're constantly wanting to be mobile. The other thing is if we have extra friends that are willing to play along, people have already seen me do this at NAB. We add people to block people. Like it's not like we're not there by ourselves. We add people who are around us that basically create a window around us. They have to be willing to be a little pushy, in the sense of, we're here and you can't be here. and it's, and it's, a little bubble that wraps around our cameras. And I've been doing that for the last 20 years. It's really effective. You get 2 or 3 other people and they just have to be very, very kind, but assertive of like, hey, we're shooting, and there'll be always some weirdo that wants to cut through the middle because they feel like they're, I don't know what they feel. Anyway, so, but outside of the weirdos, for the most part, 80 or 90% of the folks will just wrap around whatever you're doing. If you're not inappropriate, if you're just there kind of, and then just explain to people that we're shooting, usually normal people will just walk around.
Yeah, I'll note, though, that the parades I've shot in the past have mostly been pretty 5 or 6 or 10 people deep in terms of the crowds on the sides of the road, so that really limits my mobility. I found that setting up in a good place where the bands are going to be playing, if you can get into it near the main reviewing stand or something like that, or on a corner of a street where you have some mobility.
Yeah, I mean, I
get
think
a chance not.
It is. If you have 2 people with monopods and you wander all over the place, it just looks like you covered the thing with 100 cameras. Like that's the thing that happens is that if you keep moving and getting different angles, especially if you're not live, but if you're constantly getting different frames, the problem that we have, the complaint we had in the past was that felt too slow. Like one camera in a good place just doesn't feel good. Whereas if they got a cut of something that's like from different angles and different directions and especially if you're covering if you don't have to cover all of the floats and you're covering one float, capturing that float from different angles and in it and around it and so on and so forth. We've done things where we built the cameras into the float. So not like built, but like we made them look like they're part of the float. So if you didn't look unless you looked really carefully, you wouldn't notice that there were cameras there. And so there's a whole bunch of things so that it feels really big when we hand Chris the footage. He has lots to work with, as far, and it feels like, wow, and it can be 2 or 3 people that in it. It looks like, it looks like you had 10 or 15 people out there.
Yeah, the last thing I'm going to say is that I had to get into the mode to shoot parades, which is I'm there to do a job, and it's okay to walk into the parade and walk up to the subjects and things like that. You have to. That's a funny thing when you're starting to shoot is you tend to not be used to going right into the middle of things. Good videographers don't have any of that. They just say, this is where my shot is. I'm going to be polite, but I'm going to go get the shot. So something to think about. Next question.
This one comes to us through the QR code from Phil Martin in London, UK. We have a client that says that they have sent room camera and presentation feeds via 2 capture cards using a single laptop connected to Microsoft Teams, allowing users to choose between either camera or presentation. How can this be set up in software? Alex
is going to help us here. Alex?
2 things. Number one is I don't know how you could do that. Like, I don't know how Teams would take 2 inputs. I know you could give it a screen presentation and a camera. I don't know how you give it a second camera. Secondly, I would never do this. So I wouldn't use Teams. I would always have a separate computer because it's not really, if they're figuring it out, it's not built for that. And it's not going to be, I don't think it would be stable. So anyway, that would be the only thing I'd be concerned about.
Courtney Gooden.
I haven't used it. Now, normal Teams, just a personal Teams, only allows 1 connection at a time. You can have several cameras hooked up to your Teams and then switch between the different cameras, select one or select the other, go back and forth between the 2. There is something I read about called Teams Rooms on Windows. This is what it came back with, Teams Rooms on Windows, that allows for support to up to 4 USB cameras connected to a single Teams Rooms device. So you have to have the special Teams Rooms Pro license to enable multi-camera view, which allows simultaneous streaming from multiple cameras, and remote participants can switch between the views or see multiple feeds at once. So or can use IntelliFrame and multi-stream features for intelligent framing and layout control. So I guess they're trying to compete with Zoom and Zoom Rooms. So they do now have Teams Rooms.
I was going to say, where'd they get that name from, I wonder?
They got that idea from somewhere.
Next question.
Andy Kokendorfer in Viera, Florida asks, what is the easiest way to offload photos and videos from your iPhone? iOS version 26 for context. Thanks.
Jeffrey Power is going to help us out here. Jeffrey?
I'm finding that the best way to do it is just to get an external drive and plug it into the phone's USB port, and then offload it through the files area into the drive itself. I've tried Dropbox. You can get AirDrop to work pretty well, but it takes a lot of time to transfer the files when it comes to something like a Dropbox or a box or anything like that. So that's what I normally do, is just put it onto the external drive and then bring it over to the computer.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, so if I'm taking photos, most of the time for photographs, I don't use much other than the Apple app. I know that I have Halide and I have a bunch of other things, but do I actually use them? No. I'm very good at the photo app. I know all the features. I know how to make it work. And I'll take those photos, and then all I have to do is wait for it to sync. Now, there's a couple things about syncing. You got to make sure you have enough battery. You got to make sure you're connected to Wi-Fi, and you got to sometimes force it. So at the very top, when you open it up, it'll say it's suspended syncing for whatever reason, and it's like usually to be more efficient or something. You're like, just go do the syncing thing, and it'll start to sync up with the cloud, and then it ends up on your computers. If you're in a rush, of course, you can plug your computer in. I will say that I organize most of my photos. A lot of people have some kind of crazy doodad to do that. I just use photos. It's just I never got over Aperture and never really liked Lightroom, and so I just use photos for everything, and because it works everywhere, and I don't have to think about it, and all my computers have it, and it's in the cloud. When it comes to video, if I'm shooting video that I'm actually doing production on, if I'm shooting something little like, oh, look at this is cool, I'll probably just use the Apple app for that. But as soon as I go, I'm shooting something serious, like I'm going to use my camera as a production device, there's two things that I do. One is I move over to the Blackmagic camera. Now I have all the controls that I need to do that. And secondly, I plug a USB drive into it, and I set that as the target drive in the Blackmagic camera. Do not just don't shoot ProRes to your internal drive. It takes forever to pull off your computer, off your phone. It's just hell. So you want to shoot to an external drive. As soon as you say I'm going to do ProRes and I want to care about it, then you're going to start shooting to an external drive, in my opinion.
Chris Fenwick.
To be fair, Andy, you said easiest, and I will tell you, I have done whole shoots, for a weekend, shooting directly to my phone, not the ProRes like Alex just mentioned, and I just airdrop it. It just lay your phone, set up the thing, select the stuff you want to send it to the computer, set the phone down, go watch some YouTube videos. It'll get there. It's easy. May not be super fast, but it's easy.
Next question.
Here's one from the QR code from Ola in Kent, UK. In connecting a Berhinger Mixer to X32 to an S32 stage box, which option is better? Cat6 Ethernet through ultranet or AES-50? What is the ideal length for the cable? Also, what is the ethercon connector? Can you post a link for these cables? Thanks.
Courtney Gooden's going to start us off here. Courtney?
I'll let Alex speak to the ethercon connector. I think it's an RJ45 and a special locking coverage. You want to use Cat5e or Cat6 shielded cables. So make sure your Ethernet cable is shielded. I wouldn't run it more than 100 meters, but to connect between that stage box, and you do want to use AES-50, and you want to make sure you set your Behringer to be the master clock so that you sync the two boxes up using the master clock in the X32 as the master clock, and then the stage box will be a slave to that. And Alex may have a lot more to say on that.
Alex?
Not much, actually. Tim Snyder said the best cable we have used for AES-50 on our Midas stage boxes are the Sound Tools SuperCat ethercon cables. We never go beyond 300 feet. For AES-50, Mickey said that the AES-50, he said 70 meters or less, that'd be about 210 feet. STP with ethercon connectors. He said ethercon is a connector made by Neutrik. And I have to say, for the smaller events that I've done, I almost never have the S32 stage box, or I've had a couple S8 and S16s. And for ease of use, we did use the ultranet. But if I was going to do it for something that was a major production, I'd probably move to AES-50 as well.
Next question.
This one is from me, Cindy Drozda in Erie, Colorado. I hear that Zoom Pro accounts can ask for and get 1080p output for their meetings. Do you know anyone with a Pro account who has 1080?
I'm going to guess Alex does.
I think you need to go to a business account. Now, you used to have to get 10 business accounts to get to be able to go to 1080. I think you can now do it individually. So you can just sign up for a business account, and if you're paying for that extra, you should be able to get 1080p. So that's outlined on their website, I believe. So all you have to do is just upgrade one account to your business, to a business license, and you should be able to make the request to make it 1080p if it's not automatically 1080p at that point.
Is that just a small upgrade, or is it a lot lot more money, Alex? Do you remember?
I think it's like $25 instead of $15. I think it's like another $10
so $10
a month. I don't think
it's pretty reasonable.
It's a big deal. Yeah, it's a great deal. It used to be a lot because you had to get 10 of those.
10, right?
So it's $250 a month, but now it's a little bit more efficient.
Nice.
But
Chris
Pro
Fenwick, want to
accounts,
get on
no.
that? Oh.
No, you can't. No, you can. So when you sign up, unless you ask, you're going to get 360p. All you have to do is ask. If you just go into run a support ticket and say, I'd like 720p or I'd like HD, you'll get 720 like that, because they're not just going to hand it to everyone. If you can't see the difference, they're not going to give it to you. So that's the deal. And so if you don't know the difference, they're not going to just hand you more bandwidth. But if you know the difference and you say, I would like 720p or I'd like a HD or whatever, they'll give you 720p to any Pro account that you ask for. If you want 1080p, you should just go to business, and if it doesn't automatically go up, you make you file a ticket, and they'll give you 1080p at that point.
Chris Fenwick.
Yeah, the request is not as difficult as it sounds. I did not know that they've downgraded this to be that you only need to have the one thing. We still pay for 10
Chris
accounts.
Like, I got to call somebody.
I gotta call somebody. Yeah, no, because we're paying for 10 accounts, and we had a couple spares. We let a couple of choice producers that we work with all the time be on our account, but they might be on their own now.
Yeah, exactly.
The game changes. You got to keep up. Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas is asking, for a large collection of photos on iPhones, Android phones, Apple Photos, Google Photos, and my Synology NAS, what is the best means of automated duplicate detection, out-of-focus detection, and organization?
Ooh, you had me until the out-of-focus detection. Courtney Gooden?
Well, you mentioned it there in your collection of photos is Google Photos. I use Google Photos, and they now have AI integration into Google Photos. So if you sync all of those things in your Android phones and your Apple phones with Google Photos, it'll upload the photos to Google Photos, or it will incorporate the directories of those Synology drives, any place location that you have synced to Google Photos. And it will use the AI to group photos together. It does facial recognition. It can find people. It can, if you have pictures of your dog, it can gather up all the pictures of your dog from all the various places. So it can organize using AI to do recognition of what's in the photos. So I imagine it would be able to detect duplicates. I haven't checked that feature out, but it does do face grouping and keeps, you can tell it to group all the photos of this group of people together in one photo, and it'll find all of that stuff. So AI is getting pretty smart, and I imagine there's probably a thing that will eliminate bad photos like out of focus detection, things like that will sideline those photos and maybe delete them for you.
Alex Lindsay.
You are outlining why I don't use an Android phone as a significant part of my experience, because if you just have Apple devices, it's really easy to just have it to do all the things for you. I don't delete anything. Like, I don't take enough photos, I guess, to worry about deleting them, or I have enough storage or whatever. So whatever pictures I take with my iPhone is the pictures that I have with my iPhone. I'm not even sure if I know how to delete photos from my iPhone. Because I will admit, I carefully don't take anything I don't think I should. so with my phone. So I don't have any, I don't look for those things. I don't try to figure it. I have to admit, I just don't try to figure it out. It just works. Now, the good news is, if you're testing Android phones for a long period of time, like let's say 6 months or something like that, and you have it on your Google account, you can open up your Google account after 10 years and go, wow, look at all those photos I took of my kids. It's like a special little gift. And then you move them all into iPhotos and stop thinking about it again.
Chris Fenwick.
Courtney, you seem to understand the Google thing pretty well. Is there a feature where I can just have it use AI and go through pictures of my family and replace them with much better looking people?
I imagine there is a way with Gemini these days, because Gemini can take your face
and put
awesome. You in a completely different location.
Maybe replace.
I took a picture of myself with my Google with the Gemini, the app on your phone, and I said, "Make me an investment banker." And it put me in a suit in a nice high-rise office in downtown San Francisco, and it looks exactly like me.
And maybe replace us with celebrities.
It even gave me hair. It was amazing.
I'm waiting for the Brad Pittify filter. Jeffrey Powers.
I'm playing with this right now for a local venue that I'm working with. And the idea is that they take their photos and then they upload it to a specific area, and then we need a way to sort it out. Now, the best part about this is if you've got a good computer that has a decent CPU and GPU in it, you can actually get a lot of these programs on GitHub. So you can download it onto the computer, you can run it locally, and then you can check. It checks for duplicates. There's one that checks for blurriness on photos and gives you a gradation on that. And they're individual programs, but they do exist. Plus, you could actually ask ChatGPT to create a program for you if you understand the programming language and can work with that to be able to bring that into the computer as well. So you could have an air gap system technically that could be running those photos so they don't get out into the interwebs. But you could definitely do it locally if you wanted to.
Hey, don't forget, we're always taking your questions. That's how this show runs. You can ask, chat about them, and vote on them in Mukana. That's our live Q&A system. If you want to get there, go to officehours.global/join. We'll send you an email. You kind of do a couple little things real easy, and then you're in officehours.global/join. Next question.
Next up is Jesse Kester in Glendale. I recently adopted an iPhone 17 Pro Max from the local shelter. I really want to make sure this little guy knows how loved and appreciated he is. What are your recommendations and tips? Previous phone, an SE, has already been sent to the taxidermist.
Yeah, there's been a little development between where you were and where you are now. Just a bit. Alex is going to walk you through some of it.
Yeah, Jesse, congratulations. Anyways, I think that'll be it. You'll watch out that you don't hurt your neck with the whiplash between the two phones. It's a big jump forward. The thing that I use, Osmo actually keeps me well supplied with these. This is the Peak design. I love these. These have great little attachments for your car, for tripods, etc. And they take a good care of it. So nice little. And I have a little. You can see this one's kind of beat up, but you can see this is the Peak design, and it's got this little wallet that you can put next to it, and it just snaps on like a magnet. So if you don't want your wallet, you pull it off. If you do want your wallet, you put it on. It just snaps on. This just snaps on in my car. I will say that I still have a tendency to lose the wallet. I thought if I separate these two, like I found that if I keep them together, I never lose either one. But if I separate them, I'll lose my wallet. And so I put a tile that's a credit card sized tile in my wallet so I can find it, it's usually 3 feet away somewhere. And then the other thing that I put on the front of the screen is Magic John. I've gone through a lot of these. You can see that I purchased this one when I purchased the phone. This is the Magic John tempered glass screen protector, and I put that on. So basically, this is in like a little cocoon because I drop it maybe every couple days. It falls at least once a day, once every 2 or 3 days on something. And so if I ever crack it or do whatever, nothing's happened to the phone. I just pull it off and put another one on. It costs almost nothing to put that little screen protector on. It comes with 2 of them, and it's got a hilarious video that comes with it. It's always like, do not do this. It's like some guy from Eastern Europe with like chains and all kinds of stuff explains to you like what to do and what not to do on how to put it on. So it's entertaining and really useful. So that's what I do with my phones. If I was able to design something, I might have one that has the notch so that the camera's not behind the tempered glass. But I don't use the front facing camera almost ever because it's trash. So it's very rare for me to need. At first I cared about it because I thought I would use it, but I never use it, so I don't care.
I have to admit that for me, and you may already have had this, but if you don't have a MagSafe mount in your car, oh my God, that's the one thing that a couple of years ago.
The Peak design has one of those.
Yeah, it's incredible to be able to take your phone and not have to mess with anything. Just stick it on something that you can see it for directions, and it starts charging, and it's there, and it's just so easy.
My Peak design one actually uses the AC, the little vents, and it literally hooks into the vent. And pulls it and just attaches to it, so it's attached to one of my vents.
Yeah, I got one of the CD slot mounts, and
you'll rip your vents. Careful.
I've had it.
Yeah, the CD slot mount's pretty stable.
So
I got to tell you that was the biggest change for both my wife and I, is to just not think about it anymore. It just clips up there, and it's constantly charging when we're driving somewhere. So that's just super useful.
That's good.
Next question.
Tommy Chance in St. Paul, Minnesota, USA is asking, I have an AVKans PTZ into my ATEM CAM 4 via SDI, and I'm getting a latency issue from my other cameras, same converters. I use an offset for the audio coming via USB. I go out through OBS. Can one do a separate offset for one of the ATEM cams?
Courtney Gooden?
Not from audio that's coming in via HDMI into the ATEM. In the software, you can delay. However, if you come into the analog audio inputs, the mic 1 or mic 2, and you can come in at line level on these in their software, if you click right here, you will have Input delay up to 6 milliseconds, I believe. You can adjust a delay up to 6 milliseconds, but it's only on the analog inputs of the ATEM minis. So you have that feature. If you bring the audio in through an analog source somewhere, you can then delay it in the ATEM to match anything that's coming in over the HDMIs or SDIs from the ATEM.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I guess the question I would have is what latency. When you said you have a latency issue, which one is more and which one is less? So to figure out which one you have to deal with, I have to admit that I don't use OBS enough because of the latency issues. OBS for me has lots of audio latency issues, so I never know what I can really expect with OBS when I do that. So that's part of my problem there. The question that I typically, if it's a couple frames, it's 1 or 2 frames different, I will always go to the slowest video. So I will always sync my audio to the slowest video, or I'll split the difference leaning towards the slowest video. And the reason I do that is because it doesn't bother people for the video to be a little ahead, because we see that in nature than the audio, but it does bother them to have the video a little behind. And so if I'm going to lean towards something, I'm going to lean towards that. But the most important thing is which camera is getting the people talking the most straight on, and that's the one you want to make sure is in sync. But we deal with this with wireless a lot, and usually for us on wireless, it's only a frame and a half, so it's not a big number. And we'll usually again sync to the wireless camera, and everything else, no one's going to notice the other ones.
Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas is back with us. Is there any gaff tape better than Shurtape P-665? Looking for one brand that has a variety of widths and colors.
Courtney Gooden's going to start us off here.
Well, if you're looking for a variety of widths and colors, you can go to a place like Studio Depot Expendables, which is, I used to be part of Mole Richardson Company. Remember them? They manufacture a lot of movie lights for professional. They have this gaff tape line, and you can just select all these different widths and all these different colors and all these different types. They have cloth tape, they have glass tape, they have vinyl tape, and it comes in all these different. Their cloth tape, which is similar to their pro tapes, which are gaffer tape in different widths. You can get them in different widths, different colors, even purple. Look at that. When was the last time you saw purple gaffer's tape on the set? So Studio Depot from them, or Quixote, spelled Q-I-X-O-T-E. They have an expendable store in Hollywood too that sells the same GAFF tape, which is a really pro gaff tape in a variety of colors. You can see there. I think they may have a variety of widths as well. So you could check out Quixote Expendables in Hollywood, and I think they ship anywhere.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, ProGaff. ProGaff is all I use.
Yeah, I've had that. The one thing that I was surprised is how often I use other colors. I've got 5 or 6 colors of gaff tape in small and large around, but just to be able to tear off a little piece of gaff tape and put it on a thing that's mine on a set with a lot of other people working there is a nice ID thing. So I quickly know what was my stuff. And actually, if I loan a pen or something like that to somebody, I used to tear off a little piece of gaff tape in my color and toss it out there. And so I'd always go, does anybody's have the Sharpie with the blue gaff tape on it?
You're so efficient. I
lost so much stuff.
You're so efficient. Here's how I do it: is I buy, when I go to a production, I have 100 Sharpies, and if you ask me for a pen, I just hand it to you. I never expect to see it back. Like I just kind of like, I just
had
have
a bigger budget than I.
Well, you can buy 100 for not very much. Like 100 of them isn't that much. They're pretty inexpensive, and the problem is that again, we've talked about it. I'm super stingy about time, so the idea of spending time trying to find my pen later would be something I wouldn't do. So I just I learned that it was easier. Now, the funny thing about gaff tape is, in other parts of the world, sometimes I'll tell my teams, if someone asks for gaff tape, you got to give them a piece. Don't give them the roll. Because in parts, there's a lot of parts of the world that I worked in where they don't have a concept of gaff tape. All they have is duct tape. And like literally everything is duct tape. And I'm talking about Europe and other parts. It's parts of Europe and parts of Africa and parts of Southeast Asia. We've had this thing where everyone's duct taping everything because the gaff doesn't exist, So if you come there with 10, like I used to go to Rwanda, and every time I came, I had to explain to customs why I had 20 rolls of gaff tape. Because I would bring 20 rolls every time I came and just leave them there so that our guys would have them, but they'd be the only gaff tape in the whole country. And but it was so you do have to be careful when you're handing it out. I hand out pens. I'm a little bit more protective about the gaff tape.
Yeah, you have to pay import duty if you bring in 25 rolls.
I'm sure. Any electronics, you have to pay import duties, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll also say gaff tape can be a little bit expensive. 15 to $20 a roll is what I've been used to for a long time, and you get 10 rolls of that. You're talking about a significant purchase order there, so I try to keep it close.
Mickey said that in reality productions, we mark every piece of gear with of each unit, sound and cam, with a different color of gaff, which makes a lot of sense.
There you go.
Yeah.
Next question.
This one's from Zach Stahlsmith in Chautauqua, New York. Can I use an external hard drive with an iPad to easily save files to and then upload those to a desktop later on? Wi-Fi sometimes isn't great, and files need to move rather quickly.
Jeffrey Powers is going to help you out here. Jeffrey?
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely do that. Basically, what you do is you connect up the drive to the phone or the iPad in this case, USB-C. It can also be Lightning, but it also depends on which type of iPad, which version of iPad you have. Because if you have one that's not updating to the latest version of iPadOS software, you might not be able to do this. But basically, you then go into the files and then you transfer. You basically copy the files and then you go to the drive and you hit paste, and that will copy it straight there. Depending on which iPad you have, the speed will vary, but most iPads, M1, M2, M3, M4, have Thunderbolt USB 4 in as their USB-C, so that will give you the best speed, which is about, I think there was 700 to 800 megabytes per second is the fastest it'll go.
Hey, and if you enjoy our evening shows, we have one coming up tomorrow, Tuesday. We're going to be talking with David Paskin. He's going to be talking about his adventures in the land of AI and talking about what he's found that accelerates his workflow. Tomorrow night, 6 p.m., here on Office Hours' Connections. Next question.
Craig McFarlane in Boston, Massachusetts asks, will the new personal CNC machines become the next generation of 3D printers for metal parts? With a Kickstarter link.
Alex, what do you think? Is it going to be a world of personal CNC?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely CNC is coming. So being able to carve out metal, I mean, it's been around for a while. So it's a well-known thing. And for doing large items, I mean, some of these are like 8-axis and they're sizes of, vans, to do some of this stuff, but it's gotten a lot smaller. Here's the one that Craig posted here. This is the Maker Z1 entry level. It looks. I was like, oh, it's really expensive, but it's actually I think it's only $900 US. I was looking at the Hong Kong the HK number. I was like, what are we talking about here? So anyway, what I couldn't find here is exactly the exact size that it could, what its bounding box is. But it does very much feel like the early days of, of printing where we had kind of a small box to work inside of, but we could build it out of metal. So anyway, I think it's, I haven't been able to quite figure out where that looks. And so, but I do think we're seeing more and more of this. I think this is, I don't know if I would buy this one. It feels a little small, but if it was a little bit bigger, I'd be really tempted.
So the cutter heads become kind of consumables, and you get a variety of different ones?
You'll go through them, yeah. I mean, you don't go through. It's not like you throw them away.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're gonna. But it's not. It's actually not as consumable as printing. Ask me how I buy. I go through a couple rolls a week, so I'm like, there's a lot of consuming that I already do on those things, and so I don't know exactly how long these bits will last. I think a lot of bits last for a while. Depends on what you're cutting, but cutting aluminum, obviously. you can cut a lot, with those. And so I don't own one, so I don't know all the details there, but I know somebody with one, and so we get stuff machined out. And so, but if you want to do things like this was something that was done recently that like these parts here, that little machine probably could have, produced these parts that were done on a much larger machine. So this probably would have been able to be cut. From that, the gears here that we bought those, but these pieces here were all done with a CNC.
Courtney Gooden?
Yeah, I was just looking through their website, and they didn't list the bed size or the work size. It looks like it's about 150, maybe by 150 millimeters. And I think they did show some. There have been a number of XY Core XY 3D printers that have interchangeable heads that allow you to put a CNC motor on it with a little router bit for doing wood, and I guess some of them are fast enough or powerful enough to do metal, because it takes a pretty good amount of power to cut through aluminum with a CNC. So the motors that drive the transport of the head and the bed have to be pretty strong, and it has to work at fairly high speed. And you have to think about things like I'm not sure what they're doing for getting the stuff out of the way, whether they have coolant going on it. Usually most CNC cutters have coolant flowing through it, so it gets kind of messy in your shop if you have a CNC mill. So I'm not sure what they're doing about coolant, whether they're using liquid coolant and it's recycled inside this thing. So that would be cool. And I also saw some pictures of it with a laser head on it for doing laser engraving. So I may have an interchangeable head, so you can switch out that cutter head to be a laser, like up to 4-watt or some couple of watt laser to do engraving as well. So that
as soon as you said that, I thought about metal shavings all over the place. That is an interesting
You have
thing.
to deal with that with CNC, because
yeah,
that metal goes somewhere.
It's subtractive.
Yeah, a magnet.
Disappear.
That's your cleanup. Get a broom or a mop and put magnets all over it.
Of course, if you're using aluminum, that won't work.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, non-ferrous. Jeffrey Powers, you wanted to get in?
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. How does it clean? How does it work from there? And I found that in there they have an upsell for the Cyclone dust collector light, which is a side unit that basically is a big vacuum on there. But yeah, that's going to be a big problem when you're talking about shaving off metal, and is just the fact of how dirty it's going to get inside, how you'll have to clean it, the mess that you're going to be. They have a lot of these that are sitting on people's desks right behind them. I don't think I'd ever do that in my office. I'd have something like this out in a garage or a shed or something like that, because you never know when those metal particles are going to get in the air or get around, and then you're just constantly cleaning it up. So I'd rather have it in a place where cleanup is not as big of a deal. I just grab the shop vac and vacuum around the unit as well. So, but for the most part, it's a nice start for what they're doing. But in the end, we're talking little trinkets. If you want to do something big and useful, like making parts for your motorcycle or your car or something like that, this might be too small for that type of thing.
Alex, you wanted to get back in?
Yeah, and it looks like this is one thing that's interesting is it says from the makers of Carvera, which is so it's not like a brand new company trying to figure out how to do CNC. So they have a bigger version that is available for a mere $5,500, and so this is their kind of more affordable version of this. And so anyway, so it's. And these get to be really expensive, like as you start to go up. I mean, it starts at, I guess, $900 now. The ones that I have some friends that the ones they work on are about $250,000, but they're, again, the size of small cards.
Reminds me of the old days in printing when I had a friend who bought a Linotronic and put it in his garage. It was what a beast, but he was able to do the work he needed to do.
Yep.
Next question.
Next up is Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Nanlite has introduced the PavoTube II 6CP, an updated version of its best-selling compact LED tube light. Where can I sell my old PavoTubes, which I never liked, and get these?
And he's got a link to a newsshooter.com article, and they usually do a pretty good job of looking at things. Courtney, what do you think?
Well, sell them on eBay, but Paul, if you didn't like the PavoTube, original PavoTubes, why would you get the two CPs? The CP, they're almost identical. They just have better batteries, longer life, I think. They're not that different than the 6Cs. They added a P on there and they improved their battery life. So I don't know where you'd sell the old ones, Maybe on eBay.
Alex Lindsay?
Yeah, I agree. If you don't like, I like the 6Cs. I've got lots of them. So I've got them sticking around everywhere. And so I like the 6Cs. I will say that if you don't like the 6Cs, I don't think the PavoTube II is going to make it better. It's a little bit brighter, slightly more accurate light, probably a better easier connection to their controlling app. But I don't think it's a significant change. It's only $63. And so if it's coming out at $63, the chances of you selling the PavoTube I for more than $30 or $35 is very low. So I think that, that would be the challenge that you have. Probably not even that, probably $25 now. So anyway, that'd probably be the reality there. But I think that I love them. I think that they're great.
If you want to get your questions in the show real fast, I'm popping up the QR code here. All you have to do is type in askofficehours.global. Type that in any web browser. That's askofficehours.global. If you're into getting a question in, that'll take care of it. And those questions that come in through the QR code kind of persist day after day. So you can watch the show a couple of days, and if you don't get to the question that first day, we'll get to it right after. Next question.
Next one is from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia. Because I am a curious person, I have a lot of apps on my devices. Should I remove them carefully or just reset devices to factory settings?
Alex, what's your advice?
The only time I reset my device is when I get rid of it. So when I take it back to if I trade it in or I'm going to give it to somebody else, I'll reset it completely. But outside of that, I add the apps that I add. I have to admit, I almost never get rid of them. They just sit in there. I just get better at searching for them or moving them to the front pages that I need them for and everything else. But I probably have hundreds of apps that are sit on there, and I don't know why I would worry about it. If there's something I'm using a lot, I am either really good at finding it or I put it on the first 3 pages. So first 3 pages are all the apps that I use all the time, and then after that, there's just random stuff. But I can't remember now. I don't migrate from one phone to the other. So when I go to a new phone, it starts flat, and then I add the apps as I need them back in. So that's kind of how it gets cleaned, is every time I buy a new phone.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I go through and there are it depends on the phone, a phone and or tablet and or computer. Some of them have the ability to control your apps. It'll go through and it'll list the apps by their frequency of usage. And those that you haven't used in a year or so, just uninstall them. And if you uninstall them, that frees up RAM. And sometimes RAM can be pretty precious if you're talking about, let's say, apps on your streaming device or on your phone. And some of those have little things that they install that keep them running in the background to connect, let's say, to your Bluetooth watch or to your Bluetooth headsets. So they have little stubs that are running. So if you don't use them and they have Bluetooth or some type of interconnection to something else, uninstall them, because you'll gain a little more memory and you will be using up less of your resources in your phone or your streaming device if you uninstall the ones you haven't used in a long time.
Jeffrey Powers.
Yeah, I tried that auto uninstall for a while, but then I find that there's apps that I don't use for like 2 or 3 months that I need, and I most likely am not close to a good internet connection, so they have to reload from there. The other thing is that apps can be a security risk if the company decides to close shop, and of course those apps sit there unattended. There's no security updates to them, and so they can become backdoors for any type of malware to come in. So taking them out is a good thing. The best thing I would say is organize your iPhone. Make sure that you're putting them the apps in the folders, because sometimes I just forget the name of an app that I need to call up to, like, turn on a light or something like that. So going to the folder that's marked for that, it makes it a lot easier. And then, of course, you can always plug it into the computer and then add and remove apps from the computer if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's interesting, the psychology of apps. I got my reminders app knocked onto like the 3rd page, and so I didn't see it a lot. I found I didn't use it for about 4 or 5 months, and then all of a sudden I noticed that it was on that, the page after the page I normally go to, and I drug it back onto my 2nd page, and now I'm using it a lot. And it's just interesting. You can get so many that the ones in the back pages just never get looked at for me. It's a new, interesting world we're living in. Next question.
Chuck Swan in Bristol, Wisconsin is asking, can the gimbal on the DJI Osmo Pocket 2 or 3 be remote controlled like the RS4? And is there a way to get HDMI out?
Jeffrey Powers will help you. Jeffrey?
I have the Pocket 2. I don't have the Pocket 3. I know both of them have ways to get the video out. I remember the Pocket 1, the Pocket 2. There was a guy from Russia. He had a company called Cosmo Streamer, which is basically you set up a Raspberry Pi and then it would basically screenshot and then pull into the Raspberry Pi, and then you could send that out to like an ATEM or something like that. So all of them can do that types of live streaming. It's just a question of how it will look. As for the remote control, I know with the Pocket 2, I have these little remote controllers right here. They're basically selfie stick, I guess you could call them. But it has this place for the phone, which can remote control the camera as well. But they'd also have joysticks here. Now, in order for you to use the Pocket 2, you have to have it in the carriage here, because it does have the connectors. It's not a wireless remote control. But I use these all the time when I went out to like CES or something like that to get shots. And Jack, these are, if you're using Osmo Pockets, these are great as well for parades. But the whole point is that you can control them remotely through different objects. But that's the one I have.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, they
Courtney?
make an app. Oh, sorry. They make an app for the Osmo Pocket that runs on your phone. Then you just connect it. I put it on like a 6-foot selfie stick with a 6-foot USB-C to USB-C connector into my phone, into the app. And the app, you get a viewfinder of what the Osmo Pocket is seeing. And then you get a remote control so that you can pan and tilt on the touchscreen of your phone. To use that as a little joystick to control the aiming of the camera on the end of that selfie stick. So, yeah, you can remotely control it. And they do make remote controls, as Jeffrey showed you, that use a little remote joystick as well.
Hey, if you value what we do here, there are a few ways you can help. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's simple. You can volunteer at officehours.global. Volunteer, lots of places to get involved. And if you'd like, you can donate. We are a 501c3. That's officehours.global/donate. Next question.
Here's a question from Henry Ramos in Yonkers, New York, U.S. For an event, we need to send wireless video to 2 monitors in a large airport, approximately 75 and 150 feet around corners. What gear do you suggest?
Alex Lindsay's going to help you out here. Alex?
The first thing is, if you're doing an event at a large airport, you're going to need to talk to somebody at the airport about what you're running wirelessly. so they're going to be pretty sensitive about your frequencies and so on and so forth. I make no assumptions that you're allowed. I mean, maybe you've already done this. So for people listening, turning on large, powerful wireless devices inside of an airport can get someone to come over and say hi really fast. So if you want to get to know the security personnel at the airport, turn on a Bolt in the airport. Ask me how I know. Be careful of that. The other thing is that most likely there's so much infrastructure in most of these airports that you do need line of sight. So what we'd probably be thinking about is either, if it's around a corner, the cable goes from that corner to the monitor, or we have 2 wireless interconnected so that they connect to the, one gets it and sends it to the other one. But, you could probably, at 75, 150 feet, you could probably use bolts for these. The higher end bolts would probably be just fine for those. It'd be, I'd maybe rent them, but make sure to get a day extra because the bolts sometimes can be quirky to get set up. But I think that I probably would not use a lower quality. I think the Bolt is the lowest quality wireless that I would attempt to use in an airport. And really, I'd really want to go around RF and maybe even licensed RF if I was getting paid to do this for an event. I'd probably get a company like 3G Wireless to do this for me. It's a highly contested area. There's a lot of wireless going on, and you may have more trouble than you think getting it to work.
I'm going to support what Alex said. Definitely touch base with somebody. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in commercial operation of one form or another, and having the name, which is usually the name of my contact, who's usually in the marketing department or something like that. But then if I met with somebody higher up in the chain, just to be able to say, when you're challenged about being there doing what you're doing, just check with Tom Smith's office. And the fact that you know that means that they'll usually back off a little bit. They may still check on you, but then they'll get an approval. Hey, thank you for being here today. If you No, we do this every single day, and we rely on three giant groups of people who are amazing. First and foremost, you who are watching the show, you are our producers. Your asking of questions is how we figure out what to talk about and how long to spend on it. So thank you for that. Each and every one of you put questions into the queue. To our amazing panelists who show up every day here and add their expertise to answer your questions, we couldn't do it without that group either. So thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for being here over the course of all this time and making this show possible. And to the amazing back-end crew. You are astonishing and a joy to be around every single day. Your expertise is unmatched and your technical abilities the same. So, that's our show for today. If you were to run around and get this information, you would have traveled 29,000 miles. That is 47,000 kilometers, 233 million bananas for scale. We'll be right back here tomorrow. See you then.
And to Isadora, get well soon.
did it ever come up? I don't know whether we just did the whole thing on. I think
Speaker View. I think I was watching it. Looked like Speaker View.
Yeah. Do we know what happened?
It may be complicated.
Okay. Cool. Did we just do an update? I think we were talking about doing an update to Isadora. Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, it's going to turn out to be a mouse chewing through a cable somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to a friend of mine who owns an ISP, and I said, "What's the biggest problem he has?" He was like, "Squirrels. They eat squirrels. They eat the fiber. They for whatever reason they love eating at least
fiber-rich diet. You know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
my old house, I had a roof rat that just gnawed through everything. In the car, he took down my car because he got into the dashboard.
I have some mice that have kind of taken over the attic of my garage, and I'm about to have enough time to pay attention to it, and they've had a good life, but. It's all going to
Somebody,
come to a crashing
the
end.
pest control guy told me that they used to, some of the wire wraps are made out of soy-based products, and varmints love the taste of that. So they'll go for your ignition wiring.
Peppermint spray, or
of course, you don't.
Cinnamon spray.
The hard part we have is that the turkeys think that if you